Hey, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to talk about not all kosher symbols are equal. Whenever I first started getting into following the written law, I realized that I wanted to be eating things that are clean. I wanted to be avoiding things that were unclean, or eating according to what some refer to as kosher. And so in doing that, I became aware of these certification symbols on products. A lot of products in the store, you've probably noticed they have these symbols on them. A lot of times they are Ks with some shape around them, like OK is a common one that has a circle around a K, or other things like OU with a circle around a U and other symbols. And so my initial procedure that I had for buying a lot of products in the store would be, I would look, oh, okay, I think I want some type of product like this, and let's find one that has one of these symbols on it. And then I would just assume, oh, okay, it has a symbol on it. That must mean that it's kosher. That must mean that it's clean. But what they really mean, more specifically, is that agency says the product is kosher by their standards. And just like with any issue of interpretation, not everyone's interpretation is going to be the same. They might be certifying things that we don't want them to certify, especially with certain agencies in particular. So one example of this that I observed in my local store was they had this juice that was being sold that had red dye in it, and it had some type of kosher certification on it. But very clearly in the ingredients, one could see that it had insects in it. Insects deliberately being added in order to dye the product red. And yet there was an agency that was certifying it. So there are some agencies out there like the one that I mentioned, and I couldn't actually find a picture of this symbol, and they don't sell the product anymore, so I'm not able to share it. But there are some other agencies to be aware of as well, ones that we should apply some scrutiny toward. So one that I avoid is Triangle K, because there are a number of questionable issues associated with it. I cannot speak to their exact behavior or their exact criteria or standards, but there is enough questionable information out there about them that I would not want to buy their products because I would not feel comfortable with it. So you can look into that on your own. I cannot give any definitive judgment on them personally because I don't have enough information. But it certainly does not seem to be a safe choice. And there are some other agencies that have uncertain criteria to them as well. We don't know their exact standards that they're using. And another thing we might notice are these plain script Ks. There are these products that have these Ks on them, but they're not actually a logo for an agency. It's just a plain script K or plain script kosher or something along those lines. And we might see those and think, oh, okay, well, that means it's kosher. But just like with certain other agencies, having just a plain script K tells us almost nothing. It tells us that someone claims this is kosher, but we don't know according to what standards. And something I observed early on, and this was kind of a running joke on that issue in our congregation, was that a K, just these plain script ones, oftentimes means it's not kosher. I had called on one product that had one of these plain script Ks on it and found out that it had pork in it. So what are we to do if we're looking to eat things according to the written Torah? If we're concerned with the criteria of the written Torah, and presumably we would be okay with eating something that's more strict than that. What I suggest is that we look for the big 5 certifications in general. Things like OU, the Orthodox Union, or OK, the Circle K symbol. Also CRC and Star K and Cough K. And there are other symbols that mean essentially the same thing, that they have similar standards to them. And you can find a list of these on kosherquest.org. Now, obviously, I don't assume kosherquest.org to be the ultimate authority on this, but they do have a list, which I think is useful, a list compiled according to a general criteria, a general same standard that these big five agencies use. And I would be skeptical of any agency that's not on that list. Now, that doesn't mean that the product is definitely not kosher, but that could be the case. There could be a reason why it's not considered alongside these other symbols. So check that out if you haven't yet. And of course, most of us have smartphones today, and so you can bookmark that on your phone or save it to your phone. So when you're in the store, if you see something you're not aware of, you can easily look it up. And one other thing I wanted to mention was the issue of checking the ingredients. A common strategy that I've heard from a number of people is, oh, we'll just call the company and you can find out what you need to know. You don't need to worry about these certifications. Well, I made a video a while back about this issue and about things that I found out over time about that strategy and problems with doing that. And I would suggest that you check that out if you haven't seen it yet. The link will be in the description box, so make sure you look into that if you think that checking the ingredients is the way to go, because there definitely are some issues with it that you need to be aware of, that you may be concerned with. And also you'll be able to see a playlist of some other kosher videos that I've put out talking about other issues relating to clean and unclean and kosher. So check that out if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and remember the commands. Shalom.